If you're struggling with alcohol and wondering why nothing seems to help, let me save you some time. There are two fundamental truths that every person who gets sober and stays that way eventually accepts. Miss either one, and chances are you'll stay stuck. You might get dry for a while, but you won't get free. But once you have internalized both, you give yourself a shot, not just at sobriety, but at a life worth waking up to. I'm Dr. Donald Crowe. I spent 40 years in emergency medicine, and I've been sober now for over 10,000 days. That's 27 years. And I didn't get here by accident. I got here by learning some hard lessons. Let's talk about the two truths that saved my life, and how they might just save yours, too. I saw alcohol destroy lives from two perspectives. First, as a doctor, and second, as a man who is quietly destroying his own life by drinking. For the first 10 years of my medical career, I was drinking heavily, night after night. And then I'd get up and go to the emergency department and treat patients who were suffering from alcohol's damage. Sometimes that damage was obvious: a car wrapped around a tree, liver failure, violent withdrawal. But more often, it was hidden: chronic stomach pain, headaches every morning that was really withdrawal, mysterious panic attacks, depression, or just a blank, broken look in someone's eyes. That kind of pain doesn't show up on a CAT scan. The saddest moments weren't the traumas, they were the whispers, when someone would look me in the eye, drunk and terrified, and say, "I just don't know what to do." Some knew they were alcoholic, others denied it, even as their lives unraveled. And the most ironic part, I understood, because I was living it too. And what I learned through medicine, through failure, through recovery, is this: there are two beliefs that every person who gets well must embrace. Miss one, and you'll keep cycling through the guilt, shame, regret, and relapse. The first truth is brutal in its simplicity. I can't drink. Not, I shouldn't drink. Not, I'll try to drink less. Not, after this stressful period, I'll be fine. No. If alcohol is ruining your life, the only way forward is to remove it completely. Now, I know that sounds to someone who is still clinging to the illusion that drinking is somehow manageable, or worse, necessary. This sounds like a death sentence. I get it. I felt that way too. Like giving up alcohol meant giving up joy, ease, creativity, comfort. But here's what I eventually learned. The time and energy that someone spends trying to manage, moderate, or explain away their drinking, that's all time stolen from the life you could be building. The goal is not to manage the problem. The goal is to build the solution. We tell ourselves we'll fix our lives first, and then we'll quit drinking. But it doesn't work that way. You don't fix your life so you can drink. You stop drinking so you can fix your life. And until that clicks, until drinking is fully off the table, you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The second truth is this: change is possible. Not for someone else, for you. I've heard it 1,000 times in the emergency department, in AA meetings, in coaching calls. This is just who I am. I've always been this way. I can't change. That's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the risk of trying. Here's what I can tell you. I'm not the same man as I was 27 years ago. Not even close. I've failed, I've fallen, I've faced loss, grief, frustration, but I've grown, I've healed. I've softened in ways that matter, and I've strengthened where I once was weak. But here's the thing. I didn't believe I could change at all at first. In fact, I had to act like I believed it long before I actually did. Sometimes you move first, and the belief follows. You try something new. You show up. You don't drink. And one day, you feel just a little stronger. That flicker of hope, that's your foundation. Everyone I know who is sober and thriving has internalized these two truths. I can't drink, and I can change. And here's the pattern I've seen. People who reject the first truth, I can't drink, tend to die. Sometimes slowly, and sometimes suddenly. And people who reject the second truth, I can change, often live, but barely. They survive, they stay dry, but they're stuck, joyless, angry, and resentful. The magic happens when you accept both. That's when recovery really begins. Now here's the hard part for those of us who want to help others. How do we sell these truths to someone who might not be ready? Some people need hard data, evidence, science, brain scan. Others need hope, stories, connection, grace. Most need them both. That's why I started attempting to reframe alcoholism not as a character flaw or moral failure, but as a medical condition, something I now call chemically mediated disinhibition syndrome. Sounds clinical, right? That's the point. It reframes the problem biologically. This isn't a weakness, it's wiring. The switch in the brain that once flipped takes over. Once I fully understood that, I stopped judging myself so harshly, and I started treating it like any other chronic illness, one that required daily care, structure, and accountability. Now, logic only gets you so far. You can have the science, the diagnosis, the plan, but your emotional brain needs something more. It needs to feel something, something that reminds you why this is worth it. So I revisit the pain and desperation of the last few days of my drinking and contrast that with the hope of my first few days of sobriety. The difference between them is stark, and it helps reinforce for my emotional brain the benefits of change. These two truths aren't easy to accept. I can't drink feels like a death sentence. I can change feels like a lie. But they're both absolutely true. And when you accept them, not just with your brain, but with your whole being, something shifts. You stop surviving, and you start living. I wish I could give that moment of clarity to everyone who needs it, but I can't. What I can do is share what worked for me and offer it to anyone who's ready to listen. So if you're tired of circling the drain, if you're sick of starting over, if you're ready to stop drinking or already on the path, subscribe to Second Act Sobriety, or explore the process of getting and staying sober. Please leave a comment. I read everyone and will respond to it. Visit secondactsobriety.com and join our community. Because remember, giving up alcohol doesn't mean giving up joy. It means giving yourself a shot at finally experiencing it. And that's the life you deserve.